Blood Brothers podcast, a Five Pillars production.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers, sisters, friends, and the foes out there, and welcome to our very well overdue episode of the Blood Brothers podcast with your host, Dilly Hussain, and my co-host,
Aki Hussain. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to my home.
Oh yeah, it's a different setting today, isn't it?
It is a different setting.
Watching today feels a bit
I
like...
think the people should know what you did to me, actually.
What did I do to you?
You called me and you said, Zoo, I need to come see you. I was like, yeah, cool, come through whenever. You said, is this time okay? He said, yeah. And then you come through with Mohsen, 3 cameras, 2 mics, and that's it. And before you know it, a brief conversation has turned into a podcast.
Is that a problem?
No.
Okay, then what's the point of raising it? Anyway, listen. Now, Mohsen, even the settings look nice.
It looks sick, bro. MTV Cribs.
So I think you like it. This could be like our new setting, especially it's the first episode after 2 months.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, excited about that.
Really?
I am, genuinely. I'm excited that it's, this...
that we've got no guests.
Episode 56 with our dads, part 2, was supposed to be the first podcast at mine. Yeah. But my girl fell ill, and alhamdulillah healed her. So but that's why my brother Ardad's, he would have been welcome to my home to have the first podcast here.
Because you only do podcasts for like...
but part 3, my brother...
With blue tickers and rappers.
Part 3 will be here.
You don't really care about...
And congratulations on the birth of your boy as well, alhamdulillah.
Girl.
The girl. We could see that up.
Okay.
And alhamdulillah, congratulations on the birth of your girl as well.
Anyway, what was I going to say?
No, but I was completely ignoring what you were saying before. In the background, you were saying, I only do podcasts with celebrities and blue tickers, and that's not true. We can go through the podcasts of the people who I've done with, who may not fall into that category.
Now, you're more committed in the early days, like season 1. You're more committed then.
Yeah, life changed after that as well.
And we can talk about life.
Yeah.
But today we have no guest. Today is about how long me and you can speak.
Today everyone is my guest.
Okay. Oh,
you like that one, yeah?
I like that one. So basically today is about how long me and you can speak in front of a camera to get sick of the sound of our voices.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen too soon. We literally live in each other's pockets, so...
Okay. So why haven't we done any podcasts in 2 months? The last one I did was...
I'll answer the question, but you have to answer the same question as well then, yeah?
Obviously.
Because I've not seen you on any podcasts in those 2 months either, my brother.
No.
So for me, my reasons would be... So what was the last podcast that I did? It was with our beloved brother Mohsen here, wasn't it?
Yep. It was the...
and what month was that?
It was the...
Surely it was in 2021.
Yeah, it was. It was the 2-year anniversary.
So
May?
Mohsen,
what episode was it?
Let me just find out in a second.
Well, our anniversary date is May, isn't it?
No, I'll tell you exactly when it was. It was the 2-year anniversary 3 months ago. In May.
Yeah, May. Okay, so...
Yeah, we didn't release that till later. I think about 6 weeks went past or something.
You think so?
Yeah.
And then what have you done after that?
I've done quite a few. I've done Sheikh Yasser Qadhi, I've done Hijab.
Okay, yeah, you went on a big run then.
I did Sheikh Salman Ghani.
So
but
May.
yeah, it's been 2 months, innit? It's been 2 months. And
the only thing I'll put it down to, my brother, is, and brothers and sisters and viewers and everyone, is just commitment outside of the podcast, so work. And
why are you wearing shades indoors, by the way?
Because I'm vibing right now. I'm feeling good. You're a guest in my home. My rules. I've got some spare shades if you want to bang one, to be honest.
Nah, I'm alright, man. I'm alright. So you're saying?
Yeah, so work. But my work was very demanding.
What about now?
In a different way, it is. And we could talk about that a little bit as well. I think the most demanding part of my current job that I'm doing the most is you. You're the most demanding part of my new job. But yeah, and then when I was available, there wasn't necessarily a podcast that we could do, and when there was a podcast that we can do with a guest, I wasn't available, and that's the truth.
Okay. I think in the truth be told is that a much needed break was needed. I think sometimes when you're churning out podcasts, and if you actually divide it by the duration since the release of the first episode on May the 24th, 2019.
Yeah.
If you measure it from that point onward to how many episodes we've released, we've been averaging around 3 to 4 a month, even with this long stint.
Okay, because we've had periods where we've been quite frequent. We've done like maybe one a week,
We've done more than that. There's been times. Our general default is we churn out more episodes than we don't. 7 to 10 days. But we've had a long break. I needed a break. I was quite exhausted, man. And
you seem like you're still quite exhausted in a different way.
Yeah, I'm exhausted because I've had a long day today. But exhausted in terms of I just needed a break from podcasts.
Yeah.
Also, we have had a 2-year pandemic. I wasn't really feeling guests in the UK having them over Skype. I was like, why am I doing this?
That was a big bummer. I think the biggest kind of blow to the Blood Brothers was COVID in terms of how it changed how we do podcasts.
100%.
And it was just clunky. It's just not the same. Having guests in the flesh is so much nicer.
Don't get me wrong.
People feel more comfortable. You get to know each other more as well.
In the first lockdown, it wasn't bad because we banged out. We had an entire COVID series.
Yeah, and I guess it was in some ways interesting doing podcasts in a different way because the situation forced us to.
But do you think it's just in my case? I ask myself, have I just been lazy, or is it that I've genuinely?
Well, I think it's fair to say there's an element of being lazy in this for both of us. An element of it will be procrastination, but then the excuses and justification would be that we've been busy doing some other things that needed to be done at some point.
Okay.
I think this break could have been longer. I think we have forced ourselves. We've spoken about it on and off throughout this 2-month period.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not as if we've been twiddling our thumbs and doing nothing the last 2 months. We started up a little family business or a side hustle kind of thing. It's something that me and Bai previously have done on and off in the past. And that's obviously trading cars.
Yeah.
And obviously we're getting the ball rolling. I'm getting the kind of infrastructure ready in place for it to be a functioning business. And
which I'd argue already is.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Huge improvements and growth still to be made, but with, help and advice from our brothers who are currently in the trade.
Absolutely.
Big up to Nas, big up to Jimmy, big up to all the brothers in the trade helping us.
Big up to all the brothers.
Advising us. Big up to who?
Big up to all them brothers, yeah.
Yeah, all the brothers, alhamdulillah. And the fact that so many men in the town, in the area do it and are surviving and thriving and making a halal income from it.
Alhamdulillah.
It's good.
And long may it continue, may it increase for them.
I mean, and Britain's obviously it's ripe for the car trade in the sense that per household, I think we have one of the highest number of cars per household, and for a small area, from a small land span, wherever it is, we have a big population.
Yeah, and England just has a lot of cars on the road. It's constantly having work on its roads because of cars. Road tax isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
There's so many laws and policies around driving. Of course, the market for cars in the UK is humongous.
I guess, so obviously we've been busy trading cars. I know the name's jokes because it came from Bedford Auto Cars, which means Bedford cars, unless you're focusing on just automatic cars.
Yeah, which
we kind of
inadvertently happened, but...
Yeah. But anyway, but with regards to why we've been trading or what I've been trading is because obviously I need to make a livelihood, isn't it, bro? And I have always been kind of firm upon the fact that I don't think Dawah or Muslim community related affairs should be your main, let alone sole source of income. And there's various reasons for that, bro. It's because sometimes when your livelihood is based on public income, public wealth, giving you
people supporting you.
Yeah, people supporting you. It can compromise you in terms of how you are as a person, how real and true you stay to your principles, your values. Sometimes you may feel censored. Sometimes you feel even you have to censor your own behavior, where if you were a normal person, certain things would be accepted and seen as a norm, and other times you wouldn't. Various things to do with Dawah.
Yeah, I hear you.
And we're not talking, like...
It comes with certain impressions and certain feelings.
So I know many du'at and mashayikh and brothers and sisters who have side hustles or main hustles and whatever they do.
Or I would argue work.
Yeah,
what they do to earn money.
Yeah, but I think IERA, one of my former employees and, one of the greatest and, may Allah accept it from them, one of the greatest in terms of the modern aspect of Dawah. They were quite revolutionary in the sense of paying du'at and people who work in the Dawah stable incomes so they don't have to go out there to
So
work.
they could focus and dedicate
dedicate themselves because
what they're good at. Yeah.
yeah. So, but at the same time, I do believe that if you're in that line of work, whether it's dawah or activism or whatever overlaps there are in those two things, or Muslim community related issues,
Yeah.
taking a salary from that, there's a lot of accountability to it, bro. And there's a lot of pressures, and there's always a lack of security. There you go. That's what I was looking. There's always a lack of security. All Muslim organizations and those affiliated to Muslim organizations are going to watch this podcast, and they know that Ramadan is that critical time where you need to replenish that wealth. Yeah, replenish that income that you need for people's salaries and overheads and rent and all other marketing, all kind of related costs. And it's that insecurity of knowing that, you know, you're okay this year, what happens next year, and so forth. Yeah, and I believe du'at and mashayikh and, you know, and people and alimas, they should have a side hustle or something. They should have something where they're making an income which is not related to
Everyone should.
And it reminds me of the time when Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he became a khalifa, and Umar ibn Khattab came because people were asking about his whereabouts. They went to his house.
That's right.
And, you know, they found him in the marketplace doing tijara, trading. And then Umar said to him, you know, Ya Khalifa, what are you doing here? You know, the people, you have to attend to their affairs. And he explained to him the economic or financial situation of his family's needs. Then he took a pay rise. And then I think that a similar matter happened again, and he was found in the marketplace again, and he took another pay rise upon what the people and the shura, another Sahaba, agreed upon. But the fact is that he had to go and trade to survive. And sometimes...
And there's many examples like that from our tradition where working, physically doing work and trade and some type of work to make money, there's many examples of that throughout our history.
Yeah, I mean...
Of Muslim men and women having to work to earn money.
Yeah, 100%.
But they had many other responsibilities as well.
100. And I remember even recall that particular incident when Abu Bakr had to take a pay rise. He actually stipulated the specific needs of his family, even to the proportion of food and meat, I believe. So that also brings that if we have a particular type of life that we like living, and we feel that we can work to live within that means, certain luxuries that perhaps if you're in the dawah, it seems a bit like, right, maybe you shouldn't be having them kind of luxuries, because luxuries is generally associated with dunya, and dunya is usually associated with materialism, and you understand
attachment,
them kind of connotations.
Distraction.
But the fact of the matter is, man, so long as the income is halal and you're not done it out of pride and extravagance, you can have nice things. So I just think that what I'm essentially saying here is that you need a source of income. If you're in the dawah and activism, that is independent of that, because you may want to live a particular life that line of work may not be ethical to be
You're
funding.
talking about this a lot. Is there something on your mind? Something bugging you? Someone said something?
No, I'm just talking about the fact that obviously when we're trading, we're seeing a lot of locals.
Sure. Because personally, I don't see it as... I feel like you're preaching to the converted. In
Who's the
terms
converted?
of the way you're saying it to me, in terms of
Muslims, I sound like I'm preaching to converted. All I'm saying here,
I'm
I think I'm
totally.
saying something quite simple here, bro.
No, you are, but I'm saying that like you seem pressed, like someone said something.
No, it's not press. Wallahi, isn't it? It's just like, no, it's just the fact that I'm just saying that Muslim men and women.
Do you think there's people out there who don't get it?
Yeah, 100%.
Really?
100%.
And what do you say to
There's
those
two
people?
types of people. Let me hear me out. There's two types of people. There's one type of people that believe that they have an entitlement to the ummah as well for the work that they do for the sake of Islam. That's wrong.
Right.
Yeah? So that's one camp. The other camp is that you should never take a penny and do everything fi sabilillah. Those are the two extremes. What I'm trying to say to you, and what I'm presenting or trying to articulate before you start going on a psychological one, bruv.
No, I'm just
Like
curious.
like I'm going for some therapy or something. It's just that I'm saying that if you're in that line of work, try have a source of income which is independent of that. Try some halal hustling. It's good for man. Yeah, that's what man. You know, we dabble in certain types of watches. I had a stint with Bitcoin, which was, you know, it was quite decent for about 2.5 years. You know, the 2017 December Verge dump was serious. Bitcoin came a strong comeback. Man benefited from that. Yeah, just Bitcoin. You know, cars. So what I'm saying is have a hustle. That's what I'm saying. And obviously, because we're back in the hood, back in the town, we're trading, we're seeing a lot more locals, brothers who we grew up with. They follow our podcast, so they think, "Wow, why you man? How come you man are trading it when you're doing podcasts and you're doing 5 pillars and you're lecturing and you're at unis and you're at protests giving talks and them kind of things?" And I'm just like, them things don't pay bills. Them things don't support a family.
Also, we don't want them things to pay bills.
100%.
And to support families.
100%.
We have other skills and means to make money another way.
Yeah.
To supplement what we want.
Yeah. No, I think this all ties in. I hate how you did what you did earlier. Like I'm trying to get some. It ties in why man ain't doing podcasts or have been somewhat tied up in other areas.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. So obviously, when you see locals, brothers whom we love, we grew up with, our people, right? Good, bad, and ugly of all stripes and colours. When we see them and they ask and they watch our podcast, they inquire in it. Right, you like trading? Not on a full-time thing. What's going on? So you just tell them that those things will carry on, inshallah. So as long as there's a need for man's contribution, you'll see me there, but man need to have some kind of source of income. And that's cool, because even in the very initial formative years, what happened to 2016, 17, the work for 5 pillars was done for diddly squat. Alhamdulillah, may Allah accept that very meager contribution for what me and Roshan both did. That's why man worked as a taxi controller, already discussed in a previous episode. Man worked had a stint at Press TV and Al Jazeera, had worked at IERA, Dio Valente Solicitors. Man had other income, just that was office work and that's trading. So the thing is, when you need an income, bro, you need to do what you need to do, and sometimes things as passionate and enjoyable as podcasts have to take a back burner.
And we like motors.
But inshallah that's going to change now. We are back in the scene, and inshallah we're going to have more podcasts. I know Mohsin's even he'd been bored and saying trying to get me on it, and we were never ever going to stop. We just needed a break.
Yeah, it was inevitable. This was inevitable.
Yeah. But on the issue of we were talking about
things that we in these 2 months we've not been doing podcasts. We've certainly been talking a lot.
Yeah. So one of the things that I definitely want to talk about very briefly, because I haven't done so in a camera, in an episode or on Roshan's show, anything on that capacity, or even on Insta for that matter, is the advancement and now the taking over of the Taliban in Afghanistan. That last month they were making huge, significant swathes of advancement, taking over province after province, many without even a single shot fired, unless there were ones that were celebratory, ones that then killed someone on the way down. That also happens. But they've taken Afghanistan, and the manner in which the US exited will forever be remembered as yet another unsuccessful and defeated empire. Others would argue, well, no, they did the damage that they had to do. They colonized that part of that country and that region for a good part of 2 decades. And when they realized that the harm outweighed the benefit, they blurted, and they didn't really care about anyone who seemed allies at the time. We even think about the Taliban.
Well, that was very well put, really, in terms of when you weigh it up, the harm did outweigh the benefit.
And that's how generally...
There was no more interest there for America.
Not in that meaningful military way.
Absolutely. They wrung it dry. It was becoming a burden.
But they got clotted.
And of course, absolutely.
Let's not also take that away.
And just continuous L's, just constant L's in Afghanistan.
I mean, I know some people play the numbers game. I know some people like playing the numbers game where this how many people Afghans were killed or militants were killed or whatever the terminology is, and this how many of our soldiers killed. We have to learn how many came out with PTSD and felt suicidal, how many of them came back were never the same people ever again, how many of them came back disfigured and membered. So was it worth it when you got senior British security officials now saying maybe it's wrong to describe the Taliban as an enemy, maybe they deserve a chance? You're welcome on. Yeah, isn't this what happened with the Good Friday Agreement, where you had to acknowledge that the IRA that murked off Mountbatten and bombed up the Tory conference, that you're going to now talk about them and make peace? That's happening with Taliban, right? So it's crazy, isn't it?
It's absolutely insane. And seeing it unfold on the news, all over world news, on slapped around every single TV station, radio, everything. It seems like surreal.
I mean, it's crazy also
how the tone has changed, how the language has changed.
I mean,
and how quickly things can change when it suits your interest.
I mean, let's also make it very clear for our viewers that we're not that politically naive to think that this all happened independently without the kind of real politicking and soft diplomacy
And discussion.
discussion of the likes of Qatar, key player in this, perhaps one of the most key strategic player in the Taliban's takeover in terms of the political, peace deal that took place. Then there's also the fact that we know that Pakistan has played a key role. China will be playing a key role in the rebuilding of Afghanistan. We know there are huge players that don't necessarily have the best interests of Islam or Muslims at heart at play to perhaps facilitate to some degree what's happened in Afghanistan. But the Western coverage of it, the Western media's coverage of it hasn't been short of a bloody joke. Wallahi, the coverage of, we already know that the British media and by extension the global Western media, their propaganda against Islam and Muslims is so ridiculous. But with the Taliban, they went full insane, literally just making lies up.
Yeah, it was like watching Fox
on steroids.
It was ridiculous.
And the thing is, no one is disputing that there will be aspects and elements, especially in the past and perhaps even now recent, of the Taliban's governance, the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan's governance, which constituencies and aspects of Afghan society would not like. It is not the type of governance that they sought or supported. But you have to accept that the Pashtuns, which is what mainly makes up the Taliban movement, even though they've got other minority groups as part of the group's movement, they are the majority of the people there. These are the sons of that land. These are not people, because people like saying it sometimes, outsiders have bought an alien version of Islam. No, these are your people. They are already...
Their families have lived here their whole lives.
They are the indigenous people of that land. And their version of Islam, right, who I believe that even people who are pro-Sharia or would regard themselves as, I don't like this term, political Islamists, whatever it may be, that you may not like their interpretation of Sharia,
because it's harsh.
Or aspects of it is harsh or disproportionate. But the fact is that the Taliban, believe that that version is appropriate for that land. And anyone who has any kind of cursory understanding of civilizations and empires would know that within a single state or an empire or a land or a region where the cities are more urban and cosmopolitan and metropolitan, the laws are more laxed in terms of its general day-to-day life, because there's so many people and there's so many a mix and diversity of people. And you know that tribal societies tend to be very different to that. And you'd have that within one civilization. What do you think?
No, I agree with you 100%. I just think Afghanistan is very unique in terms of how much of a pain and a block it's been for many empires that have centuries for many years,
thousands of years.
Yeah, and we're seeing the modern version of how failed empires and enemies too, how they react and how they respond to their failure. So the Taliban taking control over Afghanistan and seeing how British and American media cover that has just been it's been so funny. And how Taliban has evolved as well, actually, in light of this.
And I just wanted to put like the kind of like fact-based political T's and C's in place. Let's make it clear that whilst the US and its allies argued that the invasion of Afghanistan was in retaliation for them refusing to give bin Laden up and hosting who they believed was the perpetrator of the 9/11 attacks, Afghanistan and the Taliban government at the time said, you give us the evidence that OBL did it, we will try him in the Islamic courts, and if we find him guilty, we will hand him over to you or try him according to Sharia here. Yeah? Let's also put a few other T's and C's. The Taliban themselves have kind of come out and said that there are constituencies of our young soldiers who are newly formed warriors and defenders that have joined our movement. These men don't have any experience in running societies and governments, let alone local markets and stuff like that. So they will be harsh, they will be brutal. Some of these things lead to transgression and oppression, and they said that they will be trained, and those who are seen to carry on doing it will be punished. I just feel that the Taliban, like any other group or movement or organization, will have its faults, will have its interpretation of Islam and the Sharia, which others will disagree with. That's just a given with literally every Muslim organization and Jama'ah and group that's out there.
Yeah.
No one has such a pristine reputation that they are not seen as having some kind of error or fault in some interpretation or implementation or something. True?
Yeah, you're saying a lot. So, but
Am I yapping on a lot?
Yeah, a lot. But
Am I yapping bears?
Yeah, but I
I've
agree.
missed it, man. I've not spoken about these things for time, bro.
But I agree with you. I agree with you that Taliban is getting a lot of coverage.
Yeah.
They're having a lot of people speak. They're having a lot of their learned, articulate brothers speak
English.
in English to argue the case of Taliban, and to describe and explain how they plan to rule Afghanistan. And that's an opportunity that Taliban wasn't really offered before.
I think they've definitely become more savvy.
Way more savvy, way more organized, way more professional, and what you'd expect really from a group that's seriously trying to govern a country.
I'm going to say something as well. Yeah, look, if there's, I know we do have non-Muslim viewers and listeners. We know that because we receive emails and DMs and messages from well-wishers and critics alike. If you're wondering why, you know, the Taliban has taken over and why the UK government, being a key ally or jockey of the US, decided to leave Afghanistan in the manner that it did, know that a deal has already been made. There's been a level of defeat that's already been accepted. There's been a compromise that's already been made. So you being in uproar makes no difference. The people, the movers and shakers of society have already made a deal.
It's done.
The Taliban are here. They're going to take over. You've got MI5 security officials saying we shouldn't really be calling them enemies anymore. You know, maybe it's too early to call them enemies. Yeah,
Taliban have become the Taliban.
So what you see now is, there's a mass frenzy now of making this all about women's rights, right? Now let's talk about this because we had a very brief conversation. Let's have it on camera now.
Go on, then.
We said that if we lived in Afghanistan under the Taliban with our women folk, we would struggle and they would struggle.
Yeah.
But then people need to be quiet. People need to just take a chupa and realize that you can't just forklift people from their environment and lift them there and say, oh, since you lot are sympathizers or defenders or trying to justify or whatever, why don't you lot live there? Don't make such stupid comments.
Look, absolutely. And here's
Stop it.
And here's a more relatable or simple way to put it, yeah? Let's say there's certain Muslims who have certain relatives or cousins or family members who are more strict Muslims than them. They don't like being around them very much. They don't like chilling with them too much. They don't like just spending too much time with them because they find their strictness and their level of Islam difficult to be around or to keep up with. So now that's an everyday reality for a lot of Muslims, I imagine. They have certain friends or friends of relatives or family members that are just more Islamic than them, more practicing, more strict in their version of Islam, and it's difficult for them to... Now, where's Taliban? Taliban's going to be even more difficult now.
No, but
because the country's different now. Okay. What you're used to is different now.
Okay, let me ask you a question, bro. Yeah, I know we don't really have, we have certain level of knowledge and information about certain parts of the country.
What do you think of what I said there, though? Did it make sense? Do you understand that?
Of course, I agree with you. It was a great analogy. But what I'm trying to ask you is this: don't you believe that? Would it be fair to say that whatever their version of Sharia is, that it's alien to the people of Afghanistan?
It's probably what they're more accustomed to than my version of Islam and your version of Islam.
Exactly.
They're going to think my version, yours version is very progressive and modern to theirs.
Now, naturally, like the vast majority, if not every single 57 Muslim majority secular nation countries, there are strong constituencies who are secular and don't like religion.
Yeah.
So Afghanistan in that regard is no different. It has elements of its society which liked the USSR rule. There were elements of its society which didn't mind the occupation of America. There are elements of Afghan society who are also practicing on God-fearing and love Sharia but don't agree with the Taliban's interpretation of Sharia. Do you understand? So, but I think to say that it's alien, people are literally they're trying to mock.
But that's just a lie.
Yeah, it's just a lie, man.
To say that the local people of Afghanistan find Taliban's version of Islam alien to them and like this version of Islam that is like
they've never seen it, never heard it.
A likeness to I hate to make the comparison ISIS. Yeah. The likeness of their level of kind of ferocious Islam is like that of... absolutely not. Those people the members of Taliban are from the people. their relatives are the people you see on
They're
television.
Pashtun people from that land, didn't it? Their fathers and forefathers were Mujahideen who
those
fought
people
the
who have
Russians.
markets selling shoes and clothes and food are their uncles and
And
their
tribesmen,
fathers
and tribesmen.
and relatives.
Yeah, so
So
I mean, look, a lot
they
can
have
be-
the same Islam,
look,
really.
Look, a lot can be said in fair critique of the Taliban, right? In terms of access to women's education, what that education is, what the framework and remit of that is, access to women in employment and the civil service, something which we know that previous Islamic civilizations that thrived for much longer allowed. Yeah, you know. I mean, just the most commonly cited one is the one of Umar ibn Khattab, who appointed a woman officer in the markets. Yeah. So we had under the Ottoman state various female scholars and judges. No, that's fine. You hear in spirit. So I guess I'm speaking to the cameras. So in that regard, there's genuine fair criticisms of the Taliban, or expectations that people will be watching to see what they will deliver. But to say that their Sharia is alien, is something that the people of Afghanistan have never heard of or seen of, to say that the niqab or the burqa or the full veil or the jilbab or whatever it may be, that these kind of dress sense is alien to Afghanistan, I think would be at best an unfair and untrue representation or distortion of the reality and the historical reality of Afghanistan, and at worst outright propaganda. But whilst we wait for Aki to come back, there was a tweet which Mehdi Hassan, someone who I respect greatly in terms of his political commentary, his style of being an anchor and so forth, that he tweeted when the whole kind of Taliban takeover was happening, that the Taliban's Sharia isn't the Sharia for most of us or all of us. Something along those lines. I don't remember it verbatim, but basically Mehdi Hassan said, whatever the Sharia the Taliban are propagating, that's not the Sharia for most of us or all of us. And I had to pull him up and I said that, look, the same can be said for your Sharia, especially you, because you're a Shia. And even within the Shia, you are a part of a minority group. You understand? So immediately by default, your Sharia is certainly not our type of Sharia. The Taliban will, whether you like to admit it or not, they will somehow root back their governance and its source roots to the Quran, the Sunnah, the ijma of the Sahaba, and they are of the Hanafi school of thought, and I believe they are Maturidi in creed. So naturally, whatever Islam that they and as Hanafis, they will also incorporate urf, societal norms and values, or social norms and customs, as part of their governance. So of course, a Muslim that's living outside of Afghanistan, or even living outside of the cosmopolitan aspects of live inside the cosmopolitan aspects, urban areas of Afghanistan, will struggle with that aspect. So I think that's just
look, the Taliban's Islamic and Jewish political positions are grounded on text, based on text. It's their opinions based on Islamic text. So
wherever you want
to, it's fine if you don't agree with it. It's fine if you think it's a strict. Look, scholars used to always disagree with each other and say this scholar's opinion is more strict, his version of Islam is more strict. That's fine, but you can't say it's alien or it's not based on Islam.
Yeah, you can't.
That's it. Because if you're saying that, you're lying.
Yeah, and you're lying. And I think someone who fears Allah,
and also have some discretion about people making mistakes.
100%. And you have to understand that. No, but I also want to address the kind of these are just a bunch of mullah Maulvis running the country. Yeah,
that is the most blasé kind of like ignorant, arrogant statement you can make, because these are men and young men and old men and a community who have dedicated their entire lives to defend their land, to defend their women, to defend their children, and to defend Islam. So to say that they're just farmers and stuff, it's just like throwing shade on what someone does for their work.
I also want to just before we move on from Afghanistan, because I think that's a topic that we can talk, and I feel, may Allah forgive me and Five Pillars, it's an area of the Muslim world that we didn't give as much coverage as much as we can, but because there was such a diversity of views and opinions on what was happening on the ground, sometimes it's difficult to try and get an authentic view on this matter. But that was a shortcoming on our part. But just on the issue of Afghanistan, before I move on, I want to make it clear that, look, the Taliban, like hundreds of Muslim organizations and movements that seek power or have assumed power or are in that game of power in ruling states and nations or trying to attain power, there it will be based on an ijtihad that they have adopted. It will be based on something that the group has adopted and they stand by it to be the closest and the truest to what is most pleasing to Allah. Would you agree?
Yeah, and people disagree with that.
And with the possibility, if they're true and sincere, with the possibility that we could be wrong. But we believe this to be our position and so forth.
And people will believe they're wrong.
Now, if you to label them anything other than, you know, they will make mistakes. They have made mistakes. They themselves have admitted to mistakes. They you know,
The people who are judging and labeling them have also made mistakes.
Exactly. So I think if the West, and in terms of its string pullers, are openly giving the Taliban a chance, right? And even though they are not our teachers and we don't follow them, you should at least see out what happens in Afghanistan the next course of the next 6 to 12 months. I think is perfect. And do not also be surprised that sanctions and economic hardships will be implemented and imposed on Afghanistan to make it look like Taliban is
Afghanistan
crumbling.
isn't occupied anymore. The brothers and sisters need to understand that Afghanistan was occupied by unbelieving state and its military for many years. That's not the case anymore. That's a reason to rejoice. A Muslim country has been liberated by its own people. Is everyone okay?
So just on that one.
Do you get it?
Look, Taliban, 100%. Taliban will make mistakes. They are like every other group and party and movements who have assumed power and try to, or have claimed or have sought to implement whatever they believe is the Sharia or aspects of it. They will make mistakes. Just be just in your criticism of them. That's all I'm saying. Just be just of your criticism of them.
Yeah.
Next thing I wanted to discuss was vaccine, bro. Obviously, since we had this 2-month little break,
Come on.
we took a little break to Madeira, and we could get to Madeira in a bit. But just on the issue of vaccine, like you're quite a serious skeptic of many things,
Yeah.
but you were cool with the vaccine.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because the research and the evidence from the experts, and that was published, and that was transparent, and that was backed by, like I said, research, showed that taking the vaccine is the best thing to do to protect yourself from serious illness, hospitalization, and death.
I mean, I don't want to delve too much into
COVID,
the whole. I don't want to delve too much into the vaccine debate. And Five Pillars, and both Roshan and I have received a fair amount of criticism for not playing, for being too
On the fence.
No, the other way.
Positive.
Being too status quo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just being too status quo. But people need to understand this. Look,
What's the alternative?
the alternative is obviously to question the vaccine, its ingredients, how quick it was rushed out, to not understanding the full nature of the damage that it will do to people who take it. That's obviously those arguments. But I just want to say one thing. I find it difficult how an ummah who believe that there is a cure for every illness, as per the prophetic statement, would have such mass skepticism over the vaccine. Number two, I find it difficult that
In light of a global pandemic.
Where hundreds and thousands, has it gone over 1 million yet? Of course, it's gone over 1 million.
Where like the reason why the world was rushing to make a vaccine is because it was a global pandemic. During a global pandemic, that's what you should do if you have the resources. Don't you think?
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to get the global COVID deaths. The number. What's the death toll in this? It's not even cases, deaths. 4.55 million people have died from coronavirus. Yeah,
4.5 million people.
Yeah. So let me just box a few things off. Within that figure, there's be bare people and bare numbers where it's not accurate. The deaths were maybe not corrected properly. For example, this whole kind of thing that if you were tested positive and you died within 28 days, like you were run over a bus.
Let's say it was 3 million people. Let's say 1.5 were blagged.
Yeah. Still a lot of people.
3 million people.
But 1 million people is a lot of people. But look, let's just put that aside. I want to clarify a few things first about the vaccine, yeah? Obviously, we've discussed it with Dr. Abdul Wahid, Dr. Saima Iqbal, Dr. Patel. We've had the good professor from Canada.
Kate Shamrani.
Yeah, Kate Shamrani. We had Kate Shamrani. No, you know what, that's not fair. Kate, it was wonderful having you on. But we had Kate Shamrani on. We have other people who question the vaccine, were pro the vaccine and so forth. As the people who believe in maslahah and mafsada, right, genuine cases of harm and benefit for the preservation of things like your life, I think having the vaccine and the benefits of it overwhelmingly outweighs the benefit outweighs the harm.
When the world virologists come together and experts in making vaccines come together to react to a global pandemic, to make a vaccine, you should take the vaccine because there's a global pandemic.
And look, considering that hundreds of millions of people have now probably been vaccinated up here, the reaction from it, whether it be blood clots or other kind of adverse reactions, it would be significantly more. Now, if we want to delve into that black hole of, well, what if they're hiding it? We don't really know. Then we will never truly know what going on with figures and statistics.
You can say anything. I can say anything. Right
we can say anything, and it can mean anything.
I can say anything. I can say I've gone stronger.
No, what I'm trying to say to you is there is this kind of wormhole or black hole. Like if you start going down that line, oh well, how do we know that those people have been fine and that they've not hidden, reactions and bad reactions?
Find out then.
Okay, so let's put that argument aside. No one is saying the likes of AstraZeneca was known to have a blood clot issue, so therefore many European countries stopped issuing it out. Then they done other checks and then allowed it. Yeah, no one is saying that it's not conclusive. Even though NHS and Public Health England are saying that pregnant women should take it, and we still stand by that line that Public Health England, NHS, whatever they say, just do it. I
think it was Pfizer specifically.
The video's gonna get banned.
I think Pfizer specifically came out and said it. I'm not sure about all of the vaccines in the UK.
Okay,
it might be, but I think.
But there'll be a COVID-19 NHS Public Health England link here at the bottom. You go to that.
Just listen to the local authority. Okay, thank you. Don't know what age you are. If you're 60, 6 months.
Look. No. Let's get back to some seriousness here. Look, vaccine skepticism. There's many genuine and legitimate arguments there. But I think what I'm hearing of late is like, come on, Yanni. Why are you saying things like, oh, usually vaccines take 3 to 5 years, possibly longer, and there's a whole kind of very vigorous process of checks and all this? Yeah, that's because the world's virologists came together. It was a global effort, and the urgency of the matter made them deliver what they did. And there'll be, version 1, 2s, and 3s. There will be, and they'll work to improve it.
Listen.
If it was as bad,
sometimes if it takes a quality, well-tested vaccine 3 to 5 years in development before it's ready to be used, but that's then, innit? What if things change? What if they're able to do things quicker now because they're pushed, because they're under pressure, because they're under stress, because there's a global pandemic, because there's more money, and because nations and states are throwing money at the healthcare systems? I think
it's also wrong. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to totally take out brothers and sisters and good, sincere people who are skeptical about the vaccine. Look, no one is saying that taking the COVID-19 vaccine, whichever one it is, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, whichever other ones they are, that it's going to stop you from ever getting COVID again. That if you do get it, that you can't spread it. As far as I'm aware, it's all about decreasing hospitalization. Because once you get to hospital and
they say serious illness, hospitalization, and death. Yeah.
So when them ventilators come out, that's bad news. They're saying that if we can prevent you from even getting to that stage, that's still a W.
They're saying preventing hospitalization, and so there's no need. You could be treated at home.
Yeah. So look. Anyway, in short, the government and the establishment, and especially those in the healthcare professional industry, need to understand that skepticism and question the establishment is the reason for people's deeper reason for questioning it is legitimate.
Absolutely.
When you have the likes of Tory ministers making billions of PPE and other, and literally rinsed and milked
criminal crooks
throughout the entire pandemic.
Crooks.
Yeah,
you're a crook.
Why did you have to do that for? It's a good one. It just sticks and catchy in it. But nevertheless, I think it's relevant. Look, these men have rinsed the PP and every other possible, consumer industry that they could benefit from during the
Where
pandemic.
there was a way for them to make money
They
as a
did
result
it.
of COVID,
Yes,
they did
100%.
it.
They
And
broke-
linked their boys, and they linked their families,
And they broke
linked
the
their
laws. And they broke the
baby
laws.
mums, and they linked everyone.
They broke the laws. They were doing hanky pankies in the freaking Downing Street. They were getting up to all sorts. So the point here is the reason for questioning government, especially the Tory government, is absolutely genuine and absolutely legitimate, 100%. And especially,
My Hancock's crazy.
yeah, but Hancock's brazy. Especially look, if you find that the people that are questioning, because there's that whole coverage about refusal to take vaccination is coming mainly from the BAME communities and as well as the Muslim community. Listen, if British blacks and British Asians and Muslims don't trust the British government, don't be surprised.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised that people are questioning the trustworthiness of any industry that seeks to
ask yourself maybe why.
yeah. But that said, that's all we're saying. Understand that why it's being questioned. But I still believe that taking the vaccine overwhelmingly is better for you than the harm of not taking it can bring.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's indisputed.
Absolutely.
And the numbers speak for themselves. And I'm not disputing that brothers, sisters, Muslims, non-Muslims, men, women, young and old, some of them have taken the vaccine, have had bad reactions from it. We're not disputing that. But was it that significant in terms of a reaction that there's been a massive recall on all of them or ban? No, I don't think it has. And no one's also disputing that people are going to be making trillions of dollars. That's just the nature of the capitalist world that we live in. Hey, people just relax. Of course we know that.
And the pharmaceutical industry is, you could imagine how much money it yields.
So wherever the vaccine's banging,
Someone has to make money.
wherever the vaccine's 1010 or is getting there or is V1, V2, V2.0, whatever it is, someone's
3.2,
making
V6.
yeah, someone's making billions and trillions off it. But the last thing I want to say, Zui, is this.
Yeah. Find it hard to believe it's the last thing you're going to say.
No, on the issue of the vaccine.
Okay.
If you're someone who's generally fit and healthy, you don't smoke, you don't have bad habits, you are generally a healthy person,
Yep, so me, carry on.
right? And you want to see that how far you can get by not taking a vaccine.
Taking it.
Take it. That's fine. Don't do it. But don't tell other people who could be vulnerable not to do it. People who may have underlying health issues. People who may be smokers. The elderly in your family. Don't do that.
People who are in danger.
Yeah, don't do
actually
that.
will need it more than you.
If you're not going to do it, you don't do it. Don't tell other people not to do it, and especially not your elders and your family members. Yeah. But anyway, Hajj next year. Next year. I'm going mad. Hajj next year. You're going to need the vax. Umrah now, you need the vaccine. So if you want to travel, I know a lot of people are going to just get the vaccine now because they need to travel. So there you go. The maslaha outweighed your mafsada of not wanting to travel. So now you want to take it. So all I'm saying is, no one is disputing that there are multi-trillion-dollar industries and companies that are going to milk this. No one's disputing that the vaccine was not rushed, but the time span in which it was released was significantly less than what a normal vaccine is.
No, I'll rephrase a bit. I'll say because the vaccine was put into development and it came out in quite quickly, it gave people an opportunity to challenge it. That's what happened.
Fair enough, but
they did it quickly. They had to do it quickly.
I'm bringing this down to a bit more basic than that, Zui, man. If any of the vaccines or all of them were that adverse in terms of the reaction that it was going to give to people, yeah, then we would have seen people dropping like flies.
I'm feeling stronger.
Yeah? You're mad. That's why you're wearing shades indoors.
I'm feeling stronger.
You've been wearing shades indoors since you had the vaccine.
Exactly. Which is bright.
Anyway,
a different type of glow.
all I'm saying is I think some of the criticisms and questions about the vaccine are genuine. I think the way in which it will be enforced and policed in terms of COVID vaccine passports and trying to control people's movements are genuine concerns in terms of people's right to free movement within their own land and their homes and their country without valid reasons. I think people need to access essential resources. That why should their movements be tracked or not, or access be denied because of vaccine? I understand those kind of criticisms. What's commonly known as a breach of people's civil liberties. I get that. But in terms of vaccine itself, and in terms of preventing people who could be vulnerable doing it, and trying to ward people off from doing it who can be genuinely vulnerable, don't do that. That's really selfish, man.
The vaccine is there to serve a purpose. The purpose it's serving is to reduce the risk of serious illness, hospitalization, and death from COVID-19. Take the vaccine if that's what you would like to happen. If you want to see what else could happen, then don't take the vaccine. But don't ask other people to explore that with you. Let everyone make their own decision.
100%.
And if you're not on taking the vaccine, then don't start campaigning against it. You just make your decision. But we advise following, the guidelines and Public Health England's
100%,
recommendations.
And
We're jabbed. We're vaccinated.
Yeah, we're Madeira.
Exactly.
No, let's quickly talk about Madeira, though, man. Yo, Madeira. So we had that list of countries, isn't it? This is before that, quite a few went from amber to green. We had it when it was like just 13 to 17 countries on green, innit?
Trivia for the viewers: which incredibly one of the most famous athletes in the world is born in Madeira. His hometown is in Madeira.
Ronaldo.
You're right. And he is from a town called Funchal, which is terrible.
No. Let's be serious. Madeira, as an island, which constitutes as Portugal, was a beautiful island. It was very nice. We just went there for a little break, catch up on some sleep, talk about what went with the podcast, life, trading, whatever. Just take a little break. I know we both are going to have some major developments in the coming weeks or months, inshallah. We can maybe talk about this in another episode. We just take a little break, but it was bare quiet. There was a national curfew.
What was the curfew?
It was bare.
When we rocked up at the hotel, and the receptionist was just reeling off information. National curfew 1 a.m. It was like,
They wore masks religiously.
Oh God.
They wore masks everywhere.
To sleep.
Outdoors, in the beaches, in their cars, everyone wore masks. And people will look at you funny if you don't wear the mask.
Yeah.
And remember that guy that we bumped into in the hotel in the elevator where we were coming in about 11:30? I'm talking about, if people are wondering, well, what did you guys were expecting at Madeira? Well, there's sometimes when you go to kind of like these Mediterranean countries, they have cafes open until 1 o'clock. Sometimes they'll have Muslim. Oh, there wasn't even that many Muslims.
It's an island. It's not busy. We didn't realize it was going to be this.
Yeah,
strict.
we didn't know that the island was going to be that dead. And there's no Muslim.
They had a
community
mosque
there.
on Cristiano Ronaldo's statue.
That's crazy. There wasn't a single mosque. There was a mosque called Masjid Tawheed, and then it closed. So there wasn't really much to do. So I don't think. I was thinking, thinking about if we, not that we can create such a situation, I probably would have chosen another country, Malta maybe, because we wanted to go somewhere where we hadn't gone, isn't it? Madeira was mad. It was dead.
Malta would have been any better, bro.
Nah, Malta I think would have had a better halal.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. We were there. We had that one place that we kept eating at, that doner kebab place. Remember in the mall in Madeira.
Yeah.
I think they were Egyptian brothers. But anyway, Madeira was dead, and we bumped into that guy in the elevator. And what did he say? He was like he's an English guy.
Yeah, character.
What did he say?
He said, "Our people are referring to Madeira as God's waiting room."
Bro, because that's how everyone hears that's elderly and middle aged. And yeah, I guess the demographic was that. But the island itself, in terms of scenery, was beautiful. The people there were very friendly.
Nice people,
there just wasn't really much to do.
No.
And everything was really expensive. For example, jet skiing. What stupid price was it?
160 euros or something.
No. It was like 100. No, it was like 185 euros each for 1 hour.
Yeah, 180 euros for one jet ski.
But I could understand 100 euros for an hour. I can just about understand, but you can't be charging 185 for an hour.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Quad biking was something outrageous.
Quad bike was something stupid as well. I think it was like, again, 180 euros for 2 hours. And then you'd have to have a...
No, it's a guide. Yeah, it's a tour.
Yeah, a guided one, yeah. So there wasn't even really much to do that was worth doing. I mean, we've done these things in other Eastern countries for far less. But we're willing to pay a premium, just not that premium.
Yeah.
But that break was good. Caught up on some sleep. Madeiran food was dead. But yeah, man. Took the vaccine to travel there. But then it didn't really make our life easy. Because do you remember our journey back? Taking the vaccine didn't make our life easy. It was as hard as anyone who didn't take the vaccine.
It makes no difference.
We thought we had like a passport. Yeah, we've got a vaccine certificate. Everyone get out of our way. No. You're still doing everything. You still need a negative COVID test. You still need to book your day 2 test. You still need to do that passenger locator form.
I could have rocked up there with a fever and it would have been absolutely fine.
Crazy,
The
bro.
same thing would have happened to me.
Anyway, bring the podcast to a close. When's our next podcast?
Oh, you do tell me.
So
you just rock up at my house these days and the podcast happens, so you just let me know, mate.
No. Inshallah, there'll be more episodes, brothers and sisters. We've just been a bit slow off the mark. We've taken a breather. We've been busy doing other things. But inshallah, we will be back. We should have Imam Omar Sulaiman from Yaqeen Institute, inshallah, in October. We have other various guests in terms of, blue tickers and rappers and stuff like that. Nothing that's concrete that's been lined up. You have to also understand, brothers and sisters, people are busy and there's only so much level of chasing and pursuing you can do for guests. So just be patient. Some good topics and guests are coming up, inshallah. There's still 30 something episodes of this season left, so if we are a bit slow in getting those episodes out, forgive us in advance, but please understand our reality, which we discussed throughout this episode, inshallah. Zubi, any last words?
Yeah, inshallah, look, be patient with us. We've had our break now. This podcast has been filmed, we've done it, we've enjoyed it. We wanted it to be just me and Dilly. We wanted Mohsin here, just the OG kind of nucleus of the podcast, to make this kind of minor little kind of return. And that's it. We're going to go on a run now, inshallah, and we're working on some guests, so we're looking forward to more podcasts more regularly and more new settings as well,
inshallah. Brothers and sisters, before I part from you, remember to subscribe to the 5 Pillars YouTube channel. For all the avid podcast listeners, you can find us on all the major audio platforms. Keep us in your du'as, and until next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Blood Brothers Podcast, a 5 Pillars production.